My mother-in-law thought it was funny to hide my husband's mistress in her house, until I sold the property right under her nose and left them both homeless. I cheated first. Let me get that out of the way before you start feeling sorry for me. Before you think this is some revenge fantasy where the wronged wife gets her comeuppance. I was the one who opened this door too, and I walked right through it with my eyes wide open. It started with Jake from my yoga class, cliché, pathetic. My husband David was working late again, our life had gone stale after 8 years of marriage, and Jake had these intense green eyes that made me feel seen. Really seen. Not like David, who looked right through me most nights while scrolling his phone at dinner. The first time Jake touched my hand during partner poses, I should have pulled away. Instead, I lingered. Let my fingers trace his palm. Told myself it was harmless. David's mother Carol had always hated me. From day one, she made it clear I wasn't good enough for her precious son. Too independent. Too career-focused. Not maternal enough. When David and I bought the house next to hers, she acted like I was invading her territory. The woman literally had a spare key and would let herself in to tidy up and rearrange my kitchen. But I was so desperate to feel wanted that I ignored every red flag. Jake started texting me between classes. Sweet messages at first. Then photos. Then late-night calls when David was asleep beside me. The affair lasted 3 months. 3 months of sneaking around, lying about work meetings, deleting texts. 3 months of feeling alive again while slowly everything good in my life. David found out the way they always do. A text notification while he was using my phone to order takeout. Jake's name on the screen with a message that left nothing to imagination. The confrontation was brutal. David didn't yell. He just went completely cold. Packed a bag. Said he needed time to think. That was 6 months ago. I begged. I pleaded. I got therapy. I off all contact with Jake. I did everything the articles and forums said to do. But David was done. The papers were filed. The house was going on the market. That's when Carol made her move. You know, sweetie, she said to me one afternoon, standing in my kitchen like she owned it, David's been staying with me while he figures things out. He's been so lonely. So. Something in her tone made my skin crawl. I'm sure you understand that a man has needs. Physical needs? And well. She shrugged, this sick little smile playing to her lips. Sarah from his office has been such a comfort to him. Sarah. 25 years old. Blonde. The kind of perky that made me want to scream even before I knew she was sleeping with my husband. She's been coming by the house quite a bit, Carol continued, clearly enjoying every word. Such a sweet girl. Not damaged like some people. That's when I realized what was happening. Carol wasn't just enabling David's rebound relationship. She was orchestrating it. Housing it. Probably serving them breakfast in bed. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. David got his half of everything, including the house. But here's what neither he nor his mother knew. The house next door, the one Carol had lived in for 30 years, the one where my cheating husband was playing house with his new girlfriend? I owned it. See, Carol had made a series of really bad financial decisions over the years. Medical bills from her husband's cancer treatment. Credit card debt she'd hidden from everyone. When she was facing foreclosure 5 years ago, David had been too proud to ask his parents for money, and too financially stretched himself to help. But I wasn't. I bought the mortgage from the bank. Quietly. The Rochelle company my lawyer set up. Carol never knew. She thought some investment firm had bought her debt and was just letting her stay for a reduced rent. David never asked questions because his mother told him the bank had worked something out. For 5 years, I'd been Carol's landlord. For 5 years, she'd been paying me rent to live in that house while treating me like garbage. While undermining my marriage. While setting up tea parties for my husband and his mistress. The irony was so perfected. I waited. I watched. I documented everything. David moved back in with his mother after the divorce, bringing Sarah with him. They thought they were so clever. Carol was practically planning their wedding, gushing to the neighbors about her new daughter-in-law. I hired a private investigator. Not for the affair evidence, that ship had sailed. I needed documentation of the living arrangements. Photos of David's car in the driveway. Pictures of Sarah collecting mail. Evidence that my ex-husband and his girlfriend were cohabiting in a property that I owned. The lease agreement Carol had signed years ago was very specific about guests and occupancy limits. No one could live there for more than 30 days without being added to the lease. No one could be added to the lease without the landlord's approval. David had been there for 4 months. Sarah for 2. I sent the eviction notice on a Tuesday morning. 30 days to vacate for lease violations. Carol called me, screaming. You can't do this. This is my home. David lives here. Check your lease, Carol. Section 8, Paragraph 3. And while you're at it, check who you've been writing your rent checks to for the past 5 years. The silence on the other end was beautiful. David called next. For the first time since he'd found that text, he was the one begging. This is insane, Emma. You can't throw my mother out of her house. It's not her house, David. It's mine. Has been for 5 years. Your mother has been paying me rent this entire time while telling everyone in the family that I was a gold digger who married you for money. You're being vindictive. I'm being a landlord. You the lease. You have 30 days. Where are we supposed to go? Not my problem. Maybe Sarah's parents have room. The news spread through our social circle like wildfire. The woman who'd cheated on her husband was now evicting his elderly mother. I was painted as the villain, the bitter ex-wife who couldn't let go. And they were right. I didn't care about being right anymore. I cared about watching Carol's smug face crumble when she realized she'd been living in my house while helping destroy my marriage. I cared about David scrambling to find a place that could accommodate his mother's medical equipment and his girlfriend's yoga studio setup. But mostly, I cared about the beautiful, hollow satisfaction of knowing that every time they'd laughed about me, every time they'd planned their future together, every time Sarah had cooked dinner in Carol's kitchen, they'd been doing it under my roof. The 30 days came and went. They hired a lawyer, tried to fight the eviction. But the paperwork was airtight. The lease violations were documented. The shell company was legitimate. On moving day, I drove by. Watched the moving trucks. Watched Carol crying on the porch of the house she thought was hers. Watched David loading boxes with shoulders that sagged under more than just physical weight. Sarah was nowhere to be seen. Sarah left David 2 weeks after they moved into his new apartment. Apparently, living with his mother in a cramped 2-bedroom while dealing with an eviction wasn't the fairy tale romance she'd signed up for. Who could have predicted that? Carol had a 3 months later. The stress, the doctor said. The upheaval of losing her home, the financial strain, the family drama. She survived, but she's different now. Confused. Needs constant care. David had to quit his job to take care of her. Lost his apartment. They're living in a subsidized senior community now, sharing a studio. The golden boy with the promising career, reduced to changing his mother's diapers while Sarah posts engagement photos with her new boyfriend on Instagram. I should feel vindicated. I should feel like justice was served. Instead, I feel empty. The house next door sits vacant now. I couldn't bring myself to rent it to anyone else. Sometimes I stand at my kitchen window and stare at the dark windows, remembering when there were lights and voices and the sound of Carol's TV playing too loud. My own house feels like a mausoleum. David's half of the divorce settlement cleaned me out financially, but I'd rather eat ramen for a year than sell it. This house, these walls, they're all I have left of the life I destroyed. The affair with Jake ended the day David found out. Jake wanted nothing to do with the mess I'd created. Fair enough. I wouldn't want to date me either. Who wants a woman who burns down her entire life for 3 months of excitement? I've been on 2 dates since the divorce. Both disasters. Both ended with me crying in restaurant bathrooms, wondering how I became this person. This bitter, vindictive woman who destroys families for sport. My sister won't talk to me anymore. She says what I did to Carol was unforgivable, regardless of what Carol did to me. Most of our mutual friends have chosen sides, and it wasn't mine. The ones who still speak to me do it with careful politeness, like I might explode at any moment. Maybe I am. I see David sometimes at the grocery store. He looks older. Tired. He won't make eye contact, but I can feel his presence in the aisles. Can sense him steering his cart away from mine. We were together for 10 years. Married for 8. Now we're strangers who share a zip code and a history of mutual destruction. The private investigator I hired sent me a final report last month. Carol's medical bills are piling up. David's unemployment is running out. They might lose the studio apartment too. He included photos of David at a temp agency, filling out applications. My ex-husband, the man who once managed a team of 12, begging for part-time work to keep his mother housed. I could help. I have money tucked away that David doesn't know about. Money I could anonymously send to cover Carol's medical expenses or David's rent. But I won't. Because this isn't really about the affair anymore. It's not about the cheating or the lies or even Carol's cruelty. It's about the fact that I discovered I'm capable of things I never thought possible. That I can smile while watching people I once loved struggle. That I can sleep peacefully in a house next door to an empty one, knowing I put the people who used to live there on the street. The worst part isn't that I cheated on my husband. The worst part is that I found out I'm the kind of person who cheats on her husband. Who lies without flinching. Who destroys lives with precision and then calls it justice? David was right to leave me. Carol was right to hate me. Sarah was smart to run. I keep the deed to Carol's old house in my kitchen drawer, next to the takeout menus and expired coupons. Sometimes I take it out and stare at it. Physical proof that I own something that belonged to the woman who destroyed my marriage, even though I destroyed it first. The house next door is for sale now. I finally listed it last week. Not because I need the money, but because I can't stand looking at it anymore. Can't stand the reminder of what I'm capable of when someone hurts me. I'll probably move when it sells. Start over somewhere new. Somewhere no one knows about the affair or the eviction or the woman who became so consumed with revenge that she forgot she was supposed to be the one seeking forgiveness. But I'll never escape the truth I learned about myself in that house. I'll never escape knowing that when someone showed me who they really were, I decided to show them who I really was too. And it turns out we were all monsters, just wearing different masks. The for sale sign went up yesterday. As I watched the realtor hammer it into the front yard, I realized something that made my run cold. I wasn't sorry Carol lost her house, I was sorry I couldn't take more.